Hey Lauren,
Hi, Sam.
are you ready to talk about The Longest Ride?
I am, because after all,
We are the Watchers of Movies. I felt like it was the longest movie. That was a cheap joke. I don't even know.
No, dude, actually, when I started it, I kept pausing it because I was like, oh my god, this movie's 2 hours long. How am I going to survive?
I was thinking, the day I started watching it, I didn't even watch it all in one day, but the day I started watching it, I was in kind of a grumpy mood. I'd had a bad day at work, and I was getting angry at the movie because it wasn't distracting enough to get me out of my bad mood. And so then I was more mad at the movie because I thought I can't even enjoy this movie because I'm still thinking about work problems. So the movie is so bad. I'm not able to focus all my attention on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the I can't talk. One of the first things I wanted to mention was when Melissa, what is it, Benoit or whatever, Benoit. But you know what I'm talking about? The friend, Marsha.
Oh, her friend, her super cute friend who has like a super old-fashioned dowdy name. No offense to any. I don't. Uh-oh. I just think for a young sorority girl, you would. I don't. How many young sorority girls are named Marsha? Is all I mean.
That's true.
It's
true.
Not dowdy. I feel bad now. But it's just it's a name for a different generation.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
More like,
no, it's like naming your kid Mildred. You know what I mean?
Or
like,
Bertha, which was my grandma's name,
Bertha.
and she was probably pretty popular in the 1920s. But I mean, you wouldn't name someone Bertha today.
No, definitely not. But her and Britt Robertson, I thought looked so much alike that if Marsha hadn't been brunette, that they would have looked like the same person. Like, I would have had a hard time telling them apart.
I actually
Did you notice that?
I didn't notice that, but I thought Marsha was super cute, and she was like plucky and charming, and just she has a really pretty face, and I thought she should be the main character, but maybe because she's not blonde, they didn't cast her. I don't know.
And that's what I was saying earlier to you before we started this whole thing, is that Britt Robertson and Clint Jr.
This is gonna strike you as funny, but when you said Britt Robertson, I pretended to know who you were talking about until your point was done, because I didn't know the main girl's real name was Britt Robinson. Because when you said Britt Robertson, I was like, oh yeah, Britt, I love its work. I didn't know who you were talking about. And then context clues, I put it together. So
you're very smart.
Yeah.
No, but her and Scott Eastwood, did you notice that they look like siblings?
Oh, yes.
Like, I was like really bummed out by that, and I was watching the movie, and I was like, ew, they look like they could be related.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. They did look like siblings, and the older couple even looked like siblings.
They looked like siblings too. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had the dark hair and the like same olive colored skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just. Yeah.
It was rough.
I mean.
So.
What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna give the brief synopsis.
Oh yeah.
So people could be on track that we're talking about. So basically, the movie is about a young couple who meet and have obvious difficulties in their relationship, and early on in their relationship they come across a car that has crashed into a ditch, and they save this old man's life. So the main character, female Sophia, starts visiting with this old man whose name is Ira, and he tells her sort of the history of his love story with his now deceased wife, Ruth.
Well, she's reading it through the letters.
There was when they saved his life from his car, there was this box of letters that they also saved before the car burst into flames. Just lucky they got there at that moment.
And it was raining like pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So
and the car exploded. So already I know we're in for a treat, because this is really early on in the movie.
It's actually waterproof fire.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew that. That's a thing. That's a thing, apparently.
So,
But did you notice, like, in all movies, whenever a car, like, hits a tree or something, it always is, like, bursting into flames? Like, that doesn't happen.
it's
Like,
if that
it
happened, there would be
happens.
explosions all the time. Well, I
Oh,
mean,
well, yeah. And also, there would be a lot of lawsuits for
yeah,
car
it's
companies.
probably a warranty. He's just old. He didn't get it
Yeah.
fixed. It's just
Yeah,
a
totally.
thing.
I
You know,
mean,
it's his
yeah,
fault. He
you
couldn't
know.
take it to court because
Right.
they'd say, "Well, we sent you those flyers.
Yeah,
You had to get
well.
that explosion problem fixed."
Explosion problem.
So they save
Oh
his
my
life,
God.
and she starts visiting him, and
Yeah.
they're reading the letters. So the movie is pretty much parallel stories where they do flashbacks of him and his wife falling in love, and then flash forwards of Sophia and Luke, who is the main modern man,
Clint Jr.
Clint Eastwood's son, of their love story. And when she started reading the letter the first time at his hospital bed, I thought, man, this movie would really be good if the whole story was like Princess Bride style, just him telling her
Yes,
his
I
love story.
agree.
Because their love story, the older love story was actually really beautiful.
It
I
was
thought.
really cute.
It was touching, and it was creative, and it had a real, I guess, conflict that they had to get around. And
It had legit problems.
yeah, it was a
right.
real story, and it could have been made a beautiful story if leave Clint Eastwood's son out. Leave the like Sophia's and Luke's love story. Just leave it totally out,
I agree.
and have her just sitting by this old man's bedside, who they came together through happenstance, and now she's learning about his
Right.
story. And I thought that could have been potentially a very beautiful movie.
I agree. You know, and I mean, and what they could have done with Sophia and Luke's story is that they could have just made it a very minor subplot. You know, and or had them be together for a long time or something, and
Yeah,
having them
maybe.
have their own conflicts. But like the biggest thing that bothered me is that they were together for maybe a month and a half.
It was terrible.
It was like, I'm like, you're leaving your entire life behind for this guy.
Well, and the movie did a superb job, and I mean superb in a bad way. They did a superb job of making him look like a fish out of water in North Carolina. So he's a bull rider
right.
in North Carolina,
Right.
and he doesn't fit in anywhere. Like, they had the shot of him walking across the college campus to take her on the first date, and he's in like a cowboy hat and a flannel shirt tucked in and cowboy boots, and they had like frat boys laughing at him, and I thought, this is North Carolina.
Yeah.
Nobody should be surprised to see a man with a cowboy hat on.
Especially since it seems like rodeos were kind of like a
Yeah.
big thing there.
They were within driving distance of a
Yeah.
major rodeo.
Yeah, like a
And-
huge, like,
Yeah.
national wide yeah.
And then so she was into art and he was into rodeo, and the movie did a very good
Rolling
job of
my
making
eyes
it
a
look
lot
like
right now.
those two lifestyles just cannot and will not ever mix.
No, and
so
they
their love
won't,
story
no.
is doomed from the start
I
because
know.
she likes art and he likes rodeo. So
Like,
it's terrible.
You know, and it's one thing if they were gonna just have it be like a type of thing where they got together and they were kind of just hooking up or whatever, but then the real actual love story or the real focus was on Ira and Ruth, you know?
Yeah.
That would have been different, but she's just like spending so much of her time and her focus on this guy who is kind of a loser. Like, he's, you know, I mean, oh my God, dude, like, and one of the, I just, remember how you said that I talk with my hands?
She's waving them
I'm
around
waving
quite
them around.
wildly.
I'm Italian.
This
If you,
movie-
if you put, like, if you, like, tie my hands together, I can't talk anymore because, yeah, no.
You generate enough energy
I
to burn the
do.
ropes that had tied you.
But like I wrote like a bunch of stuff, but one of the things that I was that I was starting to just be like, oh my God, was when they kissed, or no, when she called him for the first time or called him back.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
he got her number and he was calling her, but she hadn't
Right,
reciprocated quite yet.
Right.
So she called back finally.
And she didn't want to call him because she was moving, which I was like, okay, that's perfectly logical.
Yeah, she had an internship in New York with
Right.
an art gallery.
Like,
so
why start a relationship
Yeah.
if, like, especially if you're going to get attached to someone, when you're going to leave
I don't
in
know
2
how you could get
months.
attached to a wet blanket like Luke, but
I know. I mean,
I guess everyone
I
has.
guess he's good looking.
there's
He
someone
also
for
looks like your
everyone.
brother, but, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I'm just saying. into that. Hollywood's big into that incesty thing. Like, did you notice?
That's
like,
a general
no, but
statement
like,
that I don't know if it makes sense.
No, like, and I know, but like, there's a lot, and I've noticed this like a lot throughout a lot of like Hollywood movies and everything, is that they choose the lead actors and they look a lot alike each other.
Yeah, I can see what you're talking about.
It's pretty frequent, and I'm just like, why? Why? Like in all.
I think
In
there's
all
some
of the world,
aesthetically
right.
pleasing, maybe something about people like to see two beautiful people get together, and
That look alike though.
potentially beautiful people look like each other because they're all beautiful. That's a good theory. I don't know.
Just,
No, I agree. It's weird.
It's creepy. It's just, but no. So when she called him and he was like, "Oh no, I don't want to take you out," I would have been like, "Okay, bye."
His brand of sarcasm was cringeworthy.
Yeah, it was
Because
cringeworthy.
he was supposed to be
and also it was
being
very
flirty and
serious.
cute, but
Yeah.
he didn't sound flirty and cute.
No, it sounded like she was like, "Oh, okay, like so you don't want to take me
And
out."
I wanted to yell at
That's
the TV,
fine.
like, you have your out.
You're
out.
Just take
Just
it.
hang
Bitch,
up.
take
Hang
it. Yeah,
Save
no.
yourself.
But then he's like, "Oh no, I'll take you out or I'll whatever," and she said something. He said something, and she goes, "Oh, most guys wouldn't be like that." And I wrote down in my notes, I was like, "She's really pulling a Lois Lane." The whole like, it's they say, it all goes downhill after the first kiss. I'm like, dude, shut up.
Well,
Like,
I thought, what kind of pigs is she dating? Because she said
Right.
most guys would be like, I'll call you in the middle of the night and show up at your doorstep. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, so before you were just dating guys who wanted you for sex.
like who wanted booty calls,
and you were
right.
you're just so used to that, apparently,
Right.
that you're surprised that he wants to take you out. So it makes her kind of look like she's got bad taste in men.
Yeah,
and it makes him
seriously.
look like a superhero, when really, I'm sorry to break it to females around the world, but there are good men out there.
Yes,
Good
there
men do
are.
exist. As much as people try to make it seem like they don't, it shouldn't be a surprise when you run into a decent man.
I know, but just I don't know how decent he was.
Well,
though.
I agree with you.
And that's the thing, is that he's like, was he decent? Because when they went to that whole thing with her, her artwork.
Are we going to talk about the art gallery
right now?
let's
just talk about it right now, because I was so mad. I was so mad.
So let's explain. So,
God, I screamed at the TV.
So
I
she
was
tirelessly
screaming.
went to many, many, many of his bull riding.
Yep.
I don't know what they call rodeos.
Yeah, bull riding.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so she went to many of his rodeos. She supported him. She was very excited for him. She was cheering him on, and she loves art.
Yeah.
Early on in the movie, when on their first date, she's saying, "I just love art. I love the history. I love the passion. I love the emotion." And he's watching her, and when you love somebody who loves something, you love that thing because of how much they love it.
Right, exactly.
Not this guy.
No.
So they
No.
they go to an art gallery opening. One time, she brings him to an art gallery opening.
Right.
One time after she's gone out of town with him on his rodeo tour. And all hell breaks
Shaking my
loose.
head. No, well, yeah, and he's acting like he's so bored, but she's so clearly, like, passionate, and I was just like, how is he not just enjoying watching her, like, be so excited about this work? Like, I would be excited for her. I'd be like, oh, look, there's the girl that I love running around and, like, talking to people and clearly being really, passionate about the work that she's doing, and instead he's just like, I have to leave. This isn't, I don't belong here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? Buck up, motherfucker. Because you need to support your woman, or else, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, and it's not like she was giving a talk about microorganisms.
Yeah.
Microorganisms found under rocks in the Indian Ocean in 10 square meter zone where, like, he just
Right.
couldn't fathom it. Well,
Right.
she was showing pieces of art that were slightly abstract.
Right, they were.
There's this scene where he's sitting at the bar just looking totally bored, and you kind of overhear her going, yeah, you don't really see this too much with brushwork. And I thought, if somebody I loved was showing their expertise in that, I would be over the moon. I'd be like, oh my gosh, he's so smart about this. I love that he's so passionate. I love that he's so smart. He can point out things that I've never seen before.
Right.
But he has none of that mystery. Like, he doesn't
and
walk
Luke
up to
could
a piece.
actually learn something from
Yeah.
her, but he's refusing to.
He could walk up to a piece and say to her, Sophia, when I look at this piece, I just see colors on a page. It doesn't make sense to me. What do you see? And she
Right.
could go into this beautiful monologue of, okay, well, they say that this artist was passionate and angry, and so his passion you can see in this brushstroke, but you see, like
Yeah,
she could,
right.
it could be a really good moment.
So you talk with your hands too.
Yeah, I'm just very, that scene
No,
really
you're very
upset
animated. And actually, what I was thinking is, what an even better story would be is if they took Luke out completely, just made her the main protagonist, and she finds the guy in the car, rescues him, takes him to the hospital, and they have this emotional connection where they're building this relationship around the letters and everything in his love story, and her love story just has to do with art.
Oh, that would be so good.
That would be
yes.
great. Like, why does it have to be a romantic love story
Yes.
if it's gonna be with someone who's just a really basic guy?
He's
like,
and they also, that's really good idea.
Yeah,
I wish they would
know,
have done that. No, I wish they would have done that.
I really should be a screenwriter in Hollywood, but no one will hire me. No, I just haven't tried to write anything.
That's the only reason.
That's it.
No, there was a scene before, when the art gallery opening, they did an establishing shot, and they did a really good job of making him look like a fish out of water in that, because they showed cars parked along the curb, and his truck is parked among, like, Toyota Priuses.
Yeah.
Prius-I.
Prius-I.
And I thought, why do they have to show his truck? They have to make it look like he is a one-trick pony.
Right.
He only does rodeo. He's not smart enough to learn art. He's not smart enough to enjoy art. He doesn't mingle well with people because he drives a truck, apparently.
I know.
And I don't know why he would park at the curb, because
I don't know.
they couldn't stop harping on the fact that, well, this guy's a rodeo guy and it's all he knows. Well, apparently he's also really boring and one-dimensional because he has no interest in learning anything else either.
And he doesn't. And and then when he makes that comment to the woman who's gonna be her boss, I was like, well, he's like, oh, there's more bullshit here than is on my ranch or something like that. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was astounded.
Yeah, and he got really mad because he was wandering around the art gallery angry,
right?
And he heard a couple pointing at a piece of art that was abstract,
right?
And they said, "Oh my gosh, $20,000! It's a steal. We got to snatch it up." And he was so disgusted.
Yeah, and it's like, well, welcome to the art world.
Yeah,
dude.
Are you angry because they have $20,000, or are you angry because you don't like the art and they do? Because I couldn't see a reason for any of his.
I know.
Being upset.
I think it was both. I think it was a mixture of both.
And he's just, I'm a country boy, and I just can't be around these city folk. And
art hurts me.
Yeah, that should be the name of the movie.
Within my soul.
Instead of The Longest Ride, they should call it Art
I don't
Hurts
have
Me.
a soul though because I don't like art. Also, another thing, and we're kind of like, we're moving way forward into like the later parts of the movie, but. So he is talking to his mom about how he has to be a bull rider.
Oh, yeah.
And she is like, it's only 6 seconds. And I was like...
8 seconds.
8 seconds, right. It's only 8 seconds. And he is like, I have to do it. I have to do it. But they never give a reason why he has to do it.
Well,
except his dad was a bull rider.
Yeah, and he says in that same speech... Sorry.
No,
he says in that same speech... We have to live on this ranch. Who's going to pay for it? And
that's right.
But you're right. You're onto a good point, because that's maybe 3/4 of the way into the movie, and that's the first you hear about why he maybe needs to be a bull rider. For the rest of the time, it just seems like
he just wants to succeed.
He wants to be number one in the country or the world or something. But his mom is pretty young. I mean, he's probably like 22 or 23. So his mom is maybe, I don't know, 40, in her 40s, almost 50.
Yeah.
I don't know why she doesn't have a job.
No, yeah, that.
Or maybe she does have a job, but she makes a pittance.
If she was disabled or something, and they made it like obvious that she was disabled, I mean, or something like that. But like, it just seems like. Well, and then they say that he was in a coma for like 10 weeks or something. He had 10 days or something.
A terrible accident.
It was like a huge amount of time. Enough where that's definitely considered a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, like he keeps getting concussions, and I mean, if I was Sophia. Maybe I wouldn't date him because he might kill me later.
Well, no,
because
I was thinking that too. That is so funny that you were saying that. Because I wasn't actually even going to mention that because you know I'm such a true crime junkie that I like love. But that's in the true crime podcast that I listen
well,
to,
like professional
in,
sport, like professional athletes,
right.
have
Well,
issues
yeah,
with
exactly.
anger and violence.
That's
And,
what, yeah. In
yeah.
in My Favorite Murder, they talk about when a kid has a brain injury, there's like a bunch of a history of people that are like serial killers having these traumatic brain injuries when they're in, younger, and then they grow up and they're like murdering people.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're right, he could end up snapping. I mean, I don't know. And it is a Nicholas Sparks movie, so probably not. But
well, I don't know. Nicholas Sparks likes to do the death twist quite often.
That's true.
But also,
he did not really do that. Oh no, he did. That's right. I forgot.
he did.
Alan Alda died. Yeah.
Oh, and the little boy who
Yeah,
Ruth and
yeah,
which we can
right.
get into. But to go along with your point, I think he may have a death wish because I understand.
Wait, Nicholas Sparks? Or...
No,
oh,
Luke.
Okay. I was like, oh, okay.
I
like,
understand.
He's like rolling in the dough, but sure, he is a death wish.
There's an aspect of the movie that I think they tried to play on that they did not do well at all, which may be in the book as well, where he's passionate about bull riding and he's an expert at bull riding, and it's all he knows, which we have already discussed in this podcast. So I understand if you get all these injuries, if you're a professional athlete, and you can no longer do what you're good at anymore, there is sort of a depression and a feeling of being lost that comes with that. However, he never explored other things he could do. He was always just like, it's bull riding or nothing. And I think at some point your passion becomes stupidity because
I agree.
You could either, like, you want to keep this ranch for your mom, but if you die or you become a vegetable, she's going to lose the ranch.
Right.
You love Sophia.
And she's going to have to take care of all your medical bills.
Yeah.
Like,
So you love Sophia, but you might want to, you could leave her by dying or becoming a vegetable.
Yeah.
So why don't you take your passion for bull riding and train other bull riders or become an expert in your field in that manner? Because there's nothing saying you have to be a bull rider except you just want to be number one in the world.
Right. And that's exactly it. And then the doctor's like, dude, you gotta stop. Well, I mean, he doesn't say dude, but he's like,
he says bro.
bro, you gotta stop bull riding. Your head, like, and that's the thing is that it's like, you only got one brain. Like, once your brain is damaged beyond repair, that's it. It's the end of the line for you. You're done. Like, you don't have any other choice. It's not like if you damage your kidney, you can get, a replacement kidney or whatever. It's just like with your brain, that's it. You got one brain and you're done.
But even then, if you're intentionally damaging your kidneys.
Well, yeah. I mean,
he's intentionally hurting himself.
No, he is.
And I don't understand why. Because he can still do bull riding in some capacity. It's not the end of the road, but he's acting like this is all I have, and I don't buy it. I didn't feel empathy for his character because his character was one-dimensional. I know. Yeah, I didn't feel empathy for him either. I was kind of just irritated by him. And you said you thought he redeemed himself, but I did not think he ever redeemed himself.
Yeah. No, well, I was kind of iffy about that too, but do you remember because when I was at your desk, I was like, well,
I don't think so. He didn't. We didn't learn enough about his story for me to care about what he did at the end. No,
and I agree. And it didn't even really redeem him because he became like a multi-millionaire. Yeah. He could have left Sophia and been like, well, it's been fun, sweetheart, but I'm a multi-millionaire now, so bye.
Oh, so maybe we should talk about this scene since we're on it. So Alan Alda's character and his wife started dating in the 40s, right before World War II. And they collected, throughout their time together, they collected all these incredible pieces of art. Right.
Sorry to correct you. They probably would have started dating in the 30s because World War II started in technically 39.
Okay, well, let me correct you because she came to North Carolina in 1940, escaping persecution in Vienna. And the United States didn't get into World War II until Pearl Harbor, which was not 1940.
Okay, we're being really snarky at each other. Actually, it's something.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like a bitch.
No. Oh gosh, now I feel bad. No, because the only reason I'm saying this is because the first letter they read was May 1940, and they had just come to town.
Just No,
We should
it's just
title this podcast "Lord and Samantha Fight in the Middle and then make up
we're-
immediately."
I know. Well, we've never been fighters. We've
No, we
always been
don't
the type of
fight.
people who've just talked
Yeah.
things out.
I wasn't trying to talk down to you. I just
No, because I was kind of doing the same thing. So we're being like condescending and shit towards each other.
I
It's
almost
fine.
spit my coffee out just then.
Oh God! All right.
Do you remember when you first came over to my house and we were gonna eat something and I said, "Well, let me cover the couch up because whenever I eat on my couch,
Yes.
I eat something." I've
You
like
spill something?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
oh yeah. So for a very long time when I had this couch, I would always cover it up when I
Right.
ate, whenever I or anybody else would eat on it.
Yeah.
And after a while, I started thinking, okay, I need to stop doing that. So now I don't ever do that. But I was just drinking coffee on the couch, and I thought, oh, maybe I should cover it up because I almost spit coffee
Just
out
you should get like a plastic cover,
Mhm.
like
like an old people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, they collected art throughout their lives, and they were really like they
Your
said,
Ruth and Ira, yeah.
yeah, and apparently it was like the largest personal collection of really expensive
Did you
art.
wonder how they were able to collect that art?
Yeah, I
Like,
didn't.
it's like they said there was like Picasso.
The implication was that they got it at a steal because it was not famous yet, but I think Picasso and
Yeah.
Jackson Pollock were famous.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
I don't think they were
mean,
just famous in the last like 10 years.
It's
so I
not
don't
like
know. They
Van
don't-
Gogh, and like
Yeah.
before he died, someone bought his artwork, and then he died and became super,
Yeah.
famous. Like, I mean, to me, I was kind of like, I was a little skeptical at that part. I was like, how do they have all this money? Because they were like, he had like a shop, and I don't even know what she did. Oh,
She was a
she's
teacher.
Yeah,
That was
of
a
course.
big
I
part of the
guess that
story.
was kind of a huge part of the story.
But teachers in Hollywood are represented as people who make money and are successful, and I don't think
Yeah.
teachers in real life all have that
I don't think
experience.
So. I don't think
so
so either.
yeah. But also, they were seemingly from old money as well. Her family had enough money to flee Vienna, and
That's true.
so they were probably.
They could.
I'm making assumptions, but I think they had money, and his
yeah.
family did own the business, and he took it over, so they were
True.
probably successful. But
I
I
mean,
agree.
They could have.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
So they had this art.
Right.
After he died, they had an auction.
Mhm.
And but getting into this auction, we're gonna have to get into previous. We're gonna have to tell more of the plot. So
Do we?
yeah. Well, anyway, they had this auction, and
Listen, if you don't watch the movie, it's your fault.
one of Ruth's students said she took extra special care and had painted a
that
portrait of
story
her.
was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Dude, like that. That was like one of the few things where I was starting to get like a little choked up while I was watching the movie, because I was like, oh my God, this is so sad, and this is like really the only part of the movie where I was really like attached to any part of it. Was Ira and Ruth, and then their little boy Daniel or whatever. He wasn't their boy, but
That's why I thought that Ira and Ruth had a
Excuse
really
me.
compelling story, because
Me
number
too.
one, she was escaping pre-Holocaust.
right, yeah,
So there's a story there. Number two, he gets drafted, obviously, so he has to go fight, and he gets injured and gets an infection. So before the war, he proposed to her, so they're gonna get married, but then he has to go to the war.
right.
But and she tells him, I want to have a big family.
Mhm.
So, kiss of death.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
I know, that was sad.
he goes to the war, he gets injured, and he has an infection. His injury gets infected, and from the infection, he becomes infertile.
Mhm.
So he comes back home, and he kind of avoids her, and then she confronts him and says, why are you avoiding me? I want to get married to you. And he says, well, I'm infertile now, so you can't have a big family, so you'd be better off without me. But she loves him, so they end up getting married.
Right.
And this is where I think it gets really smart, because there's like a third person in their marriage, and that third person, like an elephant in the room, is that they can never have a big family. So
I know.
by marrying each other, by her marrying him, she gave up a whole lot.
Right. Yeah.
And so I can see the potential conflict, because I sort of analyzed the relationship, and I thought, I can understand where this person you love has come home from war, and you're so happy to see them alive that you sort of forget about your hopes and dreams in
Right.
terms of having a family, because you're so happy to see them alive. So you put that to rest and you don't think about it for a while. But then when things calm down, that conflict sort of comes out, because
Right, because you're like, oh, well, that is actually what I wanted,
Yeah.
and now I can't have it with this person who I love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was unfortunate. That was like, and the thing is that he got the injury because he saved someone else's life.
Yeah.
And that was like, what's so heartbreaking about the whole story is that he went out of his way to rescue someone who's in pain and who was scared and alone and potentially going to die if left, to just leave there. And all these other guys were like, forget it, just leave him, he's gonna die, and it's just like, and then he got injured, and then that's what's so heartbreaking about it, is that it's not like he was being stupid, like he saved someone's life.
Yeah.
God, Ira and Ruth's story was so good.
It was really good. It was good. It could
like,
be a book in its own.
it could.
And so she takes a liking to one of her students. She's an elementary school teacher, and there's a student that comes from an impoverished background.
Yeah.
He's not being raised by parents. He's being raised by, like, a half-brother and the half-brother's wife.
Yeah, and, like, very neglectful. They don't care about him. Yeah.
So she takes the kid under her wing, and she teaches him things. There's a really cute scene where they're at dinner.
Yeah.
And he's eating with his hands, and she's like, are you a wolf? Are you a bear? Or are you a little boy? And I was like, why am I... Because I agree with you. It kind of pulled my heartstrings.
Like, you're like, oh, because she loved him.
Yeah, because he was like her replacement child. Yeah.
Right. And then, she wanted to adopt him and they couldn't, and it was just like, oh, I'm getting like goosebumps like talking about that. Because
I feel like we were going to rip this part of this movie apart, but now we're stuck on like the actual nice
because
part.
Because there was an actual redeemable quality to the story, despite, their main love story being so bad. Like, it was, I mean, it just, whatever. And that's what I'm so just pissed off about, is that Ira and Ruth story was so good.
Yeah.
But then, Luke and Sophia was like, this is so boring. It's just,
it's so boring.
It was so bad, know. And Alan Alda, I thought, was like one of the best parts of the movie.
Really good acting, and so anyway, Daniel's the little boy. He paints a picture of Ruth, and at the art auction, the first piece up for sale is the portrait of Ruth by this little boy, and nobody wants it. Like, they start the bidding out at 1,000, and nobody bids. They keep going down, 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 and then
I think Sophia wanted it, but I think it was too expensive for her.
wish they would have played out her being a poor college student a little more, because I couldn't understand why she didn't bid on it.
Yeah.
There was no reason except the fact that I'm supposed to guess she's a poor college student.
Right. Well, she could have even been like 200.
Yeah.
And they would have probably taken it.
They had this, Luke had to redeem himself,
right.
So he bid $600.
Rolling my eyes.
I know. It's so bad. So this was his redemptive moment. He bid $600. They take him back. They finish the sale. Sophia comes up and she's like, why'd you do that? And he goes something like, Ira loved Ruth. And I thought, yeah, you didn't even, he was never at Ira's house.
No, he was never.
He had no relationship with Ira. He had one moment with her.
Where he gave him, like, a picture back.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was it.
It was so bad. I don't know why Luke got to do the hero's vibe.
No, he shouldn't have. He was not the hero of the story. He was kind of pointless. And, like, the only, I think, big reason that they had him in there was to create conflict. And it wasn't, to me, enough of a conflict to be an essential part of the story. I mean, they really could have written him out and had her do her own thing, and it wouldn't have made a difference. If you think about it.
No, I agree. Their story was pointless.
Right, and it's like, and that's a big thing, is that if you have a character who's, like, supposedly one of the main characters, but you can write them out of the story and it doesn't make a difference, that's really bad writing.
I almost think, I didn't read, I agree with you.
That's super bad writing.
And to your point, I didn't read the book, but I wonder if Nicholas Sparks was writing it from Luke's perspective, so he is the main character.
Right.
Because in the movie, he's...
Right.
Like, Sophia's more of a main character.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I agree with you. It's really bad writing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, well, because I read kind of the synopsis, it sounds like the focus is more on Ira and Ruth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that they're, like, it's about Luke and Sophia, and this is just based on what I read, but it sounds like they were kind of parallel, and it sounds like he was a bigger part of the story in the book.
I see.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious now. I almost want to read the book, but
I thought about that as well.
For free.
No, I thought the same thing. I thought I want to read the book not because the movie was good, but because I want to see if the book is as bad as the movie.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he buys that portrait of Ruth, and there's like an addendum in Ira's will, and whoever buys Ruth's portrait gets his whole collection. So he becomes an instant millionaire.
Yeah.
And so they find a way to marry their two lifestyles. They open up an art gallery,
God,
and
I
she
know.
works at the gallery, and he still gets to have his ranch. So I thought, luckily for them, because rodeo and art just couldn't mix any other way. So an old man had to die, and you had to suddenly realize you needed to buy this portrait of a woman you've never met
God,
from a
I
man you've
know.
only met once.
I know.
It's so contrived.
And you're right, it wasn't really redeemable either, because he was only doing it to win her back. You know,
He had no connection to Ira.
no, he didn't.
He wouldn't
didn't at
know
all.
that Ruth was special to him.
No, and you're right. He wouldn't have.
They
Why
only
would he
did it.
even-
They
that's
did it to
actually a
make him the
good
hero.
Point. Right, that's actually a good point. Is that why would he have even known who she was when he walked into the gallery or when we walked into the auction? You know what
Because
I mean?
of the photo, but he wouldn't know any of their story.
Right,
He
he
wouldn't
wouldn't know
know
how special she was.
He would never know the story of the little boy who painted it.
Right.
He would never know anything.
Right.
There's no reason for him to know that.
God, I'm so upset that they even included Luke in this. He was so.
He was bad.
Like,
It was so bad.
I mean, and if they're
Also-
only including him because he's like attractive, then it's like so.
Yeah, well, I was
You know,
telling
like,
you,
so-
I told you that if good looks equals acting ability, he should be winning Oscars.
Yes.
he's such a bad. He's just a terrible actor.
He's not good. No, he's
And
not good. What'd you say he was in Fury?
I told
for like
you-
2 seconds.
I
or something?
said my initial plan for this was to say his best role was in the movie Fury because he had a very small part in Fury and maybe one line.
Yeah.
And then I thought, no, his best role was Gran Torino because I think he was just a bystander with no lines in a very small scene. And I just don't think he's good. I don't think he's...
No, I think he probably has only been hired really because
Because
his father.
of his dad.
Yeah.
And he's just not... He's not a good dramatic actor. He doesn't have... He's not emotional.
No, he's not.
He's not. And I don't... I'm not
He's
claiming
not
to
compelling.
know. I'm not claiming to know a lot about Clint Eastwood. I know who Clint Eastwood is, and I know a lot of his career. But individually, I don't know if I've watched many of his movies. So
Mhm.
as a young man, I don't know if he was a better actor or not. I assume he was.
He was, yeah.
Like
He was a
I've
better
seen
actor,
clips
yeah.
from like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he seems like he's good at sort of
Yeah,
like the
he's-
smoldering.
He
tough
is, yeah.
guy.
I mean, he's not, like Gran Torino was a very more emotionally based
Mhm.
movie, and I like that one. I thought
Yeah,
that
no,
one was
I
really
like
good.
that one as well. He did a good job
I
in
like
it.
that it took place in Detroit too. That was kind of cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Lauren is from Detroit.
I'm well, ish.
Detroit
Like,
adjacent.
More like the really nice part. Anyway.
Oh yeah.
like,
Sorry.
Anyway.
We could just leave it at Detroit.
Yeah, we'll just say Detroit. No, one time I told a friend, I think you met Jeanette, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I told her that I was from Detroit, and she's like, "Really, you're from Detroit?" And I was like, "Well, Grosse Pointe." And she's like, "So you're not from Detroit because I am from
Oh,
Detroit."
I was gonna say.
And she was like,
I could.
"And Grosse Pointe is not Detroit." And she called me out, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I actually couldn't believe
I concur. Like, you're right.
You took me to Detroit
Yeah.
and you said, "Pay attention to the difference," and we literally crossed a 4-lane road, and
Yeah.
the difference between the socioeconomic difference of the buildings
It's
was
insane.
I've never seen anything like. I mean, I'm not super well traveled, but I don't know if something like that exists in many places.
And I don't either, because I'm really only like, I've been to places, but it's been a very touristy place,
Yeah.
So, no, but with Detroit, it's very weird. You got the really shady, burned down houses, and then there's there's all these kind of nice stores, or there's these
Yeah.
nice homes, and it's just a block away.
And
from
I
each
was
other.
driving, and you asked me at least 4 times, "Are the doors locked?" And I thought, "What is wrong with her? I've never. What? That's fine." And you were
I'm like,
legitimately,
"No."
you knew what you were talking
And
about.
I knew what I was.
You
Yeah.
said, "I gotta make sure the doors are locked.
I'm
Are the
like,
doors locked?
We're
Are the
both
doors
two
locked?"
white girls, in the middle of Detroit. It's just,
and it was eye opening for sure.
And Detroit to me is always going to be home, but because I don't love Grosse Pointe. I don't love where I'm from. I would never move back there or anything. But I would never move back to Detroit either. But I always loved Detroit. So whenever I go back there, it's kind of like it feels nostalgic. So
the moral of the story is
anyway,
watch
so
Gran
that's-
Torino instead
Yeah.
of instead of the longest ride.
Longest ride. Yeah.
Because I agree with you. I think Detroit is an interesting place, and I don't have ties to it like you do, but I think it's cool that you have a different knowledge of it than I do. Someone who's, like, I didn't grow up there or anything, you know, so it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
Can we talk about, do you have notes that you...
Yeah, no, go
I wanted to talk about the sex scenes.
Oh my god, yes!
So
dude.
there's...
Actually, wait, can
okay.
It actually relates to that.
Okay.
So I wrote down tropes that I saw, and I didn't start it from the beginning, so I only kind of wrote, like, what I noticed. But the first one actually has to do with that sex scene, is that when he's seeing her get undressed,
That's what I was going to start with.
Did you leave the door open, like, on purpose? Just, like, a crack so he could see, and she's kind of looking at him like, why are you looking at me? But then, and he's like, oh no, like, and he, like, turns away, like, he's like, oh, I wasn't actually, like, looking. But I'm like, well, but, like, she left the door open.
So I have to paint the picture because I agree with you. So she gets all messy because they're at his ranch and she falls in, like, a muck puddle.
Of course, because she's a city girl.
Because
so.
she's a
she's a city girl.
Oh, city girl.
City girls don't know how to walk around.
And they always they don't just get dirty. They get dirty.
Can confirm.
And so he takes her to his place. He lives, like, above a shed or something. He has, like, a hip, sparse apartment above, like, his barn.
Like, because he's not living with his mom.
And his mom's living in the ranch house, and he's living in his own space. And he has, like, a pocket door on his bathroom. So he goes, go ahead and change in there. So she goes in, and it's totally serious. There's no, like, funny business going on yet. She goes in, and she closes the door so it's still open about a foot. And I thought, you're going to change your clothes and clean off. What are you doing? Why didn't you close it all the way? But they only did that so the filmmaker could have a vehicle for them meeting eyes as she's undressing.
Right, and I thought that was, and I've seen that so many times in movies, that it's so tired and it's so boring that I was like, they're going to do it now. Yeah. And I knew it. Like,
and they had this weird X-rated, well, it wasn't X-rated because you didn't see anything, but he has, like, colored windows on his door.
Right.
So their sex scene was, like, filmed through the red window, so they were having sex and it was all, the screen was all red, and I thought, what is this?
And then they're, like, in the shower, and I was like, my God, this is the most boring shower scene I've ever seen. Like, they were like, it was just them making out, and I was like, okay. Like, there was no reason for it to be into the movie whatsoever, other than two good-looking naked people. Like, really, and that was it.
I also, I think sex scenes are more romantic when you see more foreplay than sex.
But
most of all the sex scenes were just like, we're starting in the middle of the sex.
Like, we're just gonna do it.
The middle of the sex.
Straight to the penetration.
And that bothers me because I think it's just sex for sex sake. Like, these two people love each other because they're having sex.
Right, and it's
that's
like,
what
and
I'm supposed to think.
Is that it's, well, and, like, there's something to be said about a very well done sex scene, you know? But that was not well done. It was boring. Yeah. It was bad.
I feel like a good sex scene is showing everything leading up to the sex.
Right.
But not much of the sex.
Right, and and
does that make sense?
No, and I agree with you because I feel like there's a lot more of, like, heat when you're seeing, like, these people who are, like, really into the idea of being with each other.
Like, taking their time.
Right, exactly.
And I feel like that portrays romance better than just, like, oh, they're having sex.
Right,
because otherwise, I mean, I think sex scenes are largely pointless in that regard.
I kind of agree with you. Unless it's a movie where, you know, it's like, what is that, like 9.5 weeks, or, what was that?
Is that the one in Paris? With is Paula Newman in that one?
No, it's with Mickey Rourke, and I want to say Sharon Stone, but I don't think it's Sharon Stone. But anyway, he's like, I want to see it actually, because I was reading the synopsis and I was like, wow, this sounds like insane. Plus, like, older Mickey Rourke was a lot cuter than, you know.
I don't know. I know who Mickey Rourke is, but I can't picture his face.
Oh man, he looks completely different now than he did in He was in Iron Man 2. I think he was a villain. I don't know. I never saw Iron Man 2. Anyway.
I thought
he was in it.
Ben Kingsley was the villain in one of them, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've
only seen the first one.
I know a lot of Marvel movies, even though I really like them, I've only seen them once. Actually, Mike and I were gonna start rewatching the Marvel movies, which
really?
is a very large undertaking. So
Have you seen Endgame yet?
Yeah,
okay.
of course.
I haven't seen
Of course. Did I tell you about the people that were sitting behind us?
No.
That were talking the whole time?
Oh my god.
It was really bad.
It's probably like when people sit behind us.
I thought we were being punked. I actually, yeah, maybe. I actually
Because
thought
we're terrible in movies. We're like,
no, we're not terrible compared to these people.
Oh really? Oh,
I thought we were gonna walk out of the theater, and they were gonna somebody was gonna shake our hands and be like, sign these releases because you're gonna be on our Candid Camera TV show, because it was egregious.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Were they talking really loudly?
Oh, they were talking loudly, and they were talking about the movie as the movie was happening.
God.
Like, there was a scene when Captain Marvel was coming in, and it's not really a spoiler because everybody knows Captain Marvel's in the movie, and there's a scene where she's making an entrance, and the whole audience knows. It's not supposed to be subtle. The whole audience knows Captain Marvel is showing up, and
Right.
the people behind me were like, it's Captain Marvel. Here comes Captain Marvel. It's Captain Marvel. And I wanted to turn around and say, is Captain Marvel coming? Like, just...
Really? Is
yeah.
it?
And then just all kinds of comments. Anyway,
that's
Marvel
annoying.
story,
Right.
Mickey Rourke, I don't know. But
I mean, I can look him up for you if you
No,
want,
it's
but
all right.
it's not.
But I feel like Sophia and Luke's connection
Yes.
was almost purely sexual.
And it was,
And
but how can it not be when you've only known each other for a month and
Exactly.
a half? Like, that's the thing,
Yeah.
is that you're not, realistically, New York and North Carolina are not close enough to have, a long-distance relationship unless someone is planning on going and moving with the other person. However, why would they do that if they've only known each other for a month and a half? You know what I mean? It's not long enough to even get to really know a person.
And she gives up her internship, which she stated multiple times it was an unpaid internship. She never once said it could lead to a job with this company. Did she?
No, but
I don't remember her saying that.
I don't think she said that, but I think she said it was something that could lead to a lot of other potential, really great things within her career.
Why couldn't she do a 3-month internship in New York, and then they could be together after that was over? Because she doesn't have to live in New York to do art-related things. And
although she would be a lot more likely to have a lot more success in New York versus North Carolina.
Yeah, but couldn't he just... I mean, there's no ranches in, let's say, New York State.
Right.
There's no way that rodeo and art could mix. It's impossible for rodeo and art to mix.
Right. But then, at the same time, again, it's only been a month and a half.
Perfect.
Most people don't even
Yeah.
say at that point that they're actually boyfriend and girlfriend. They're just dating. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, personally, I'm not really that type. I kind of like to
if
be
I'm like,
by
if
the
I left
fourth date, I want to be like, what is?
If I left the bathroom door open and we had sex in the shower,
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to call me his girlfriend, then I would probably break up with him.
Yeah, no,
but maybe I'm old fashioned.
And I'm old fashioned too, like that too, because I personally am not the type of person that would want to have sex with someone unless I was in a relationship with them, because it's a big step.
No, I agree with you that if I've only been dating someone for a month and for some reason I can't do my internship,
right,
then that's a problem.
Right. Well, and it's like, if I were in her shoes and I was going to be dating this guy, it would be like pretty much purely sexual, because I would understand this is going to end in a month and a half, and then that's probably it. We're probably not going to see each other again, and that's fine. If there's going to be an expiration date to a relationship and you're just having a good time together because you're both good looking and young, like whatever, like,
and in a movie.
Yeah, right, like, exactly. But she's like so much more serious about this relationship, and I was like, honey, it's been a month and a half.
Yeah,
like, calm down.
It's like both of them were dating each other with the thought in their head, like, well, now we're married.
Yeah, and I was like, you're not married. Like, and if this guy wants to give up his life because he keeps getting traumatic brain injuries, then let him do it.
Yeah,
but
and she did.
Not your business.
I thought that was the smartest move she made. Like, she picked him up from the hospital, and she said, I know it's hard to give this life up. And he was like, I'm not giving it up. And she said, well, I can't watch you ruin it. And she made a smart decision. They both had their own paths, and it seemed like neither one of them really wanted to do the work to make those paths converge.
No.
So just go your separate ways.
I'm just like, this movie just pissed me off. Okay, so I wanted to say more tropes that I noticed. They played pool. That's trope. Okay, he did not, however, like, guide the pool stick, like, which I
Yeah.
actually really love when they do that in movies, because I'm always like, oh, it's so flirty and cute.
It's an excuse to touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if a guy did that to me, I'd be like, you know, so I'd be all like into it and everything. They kissed in a phone booth.
Oh my, no, a photo booth, right?
A photo booth, that's
Yeah.
what I meant, yeah, a photo booth.
Oh, that is super tropey.
Yeah, very tropey. Having sex after watching her get undressed, making out in a lake, and the guy running after the girl.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was a very tropey movie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and
yeah.
one of the biggest tropes was, what was it? How he was talking to his mom about how different she was than any other girl he'd ever met. I was like, again, month and a half. like,
oh,
I was like,
you just,
you know, and I've had people say that to me where they're like, you're different than any other girl I met, and I'm always like, don't say that.
Yeah.
Because in my personal opinion, it puts me on a pedestal of this impossible, you know, like, you're looking at me like I cannot compete with this person that you view me as, you know, because guess what? I'm a human, and guess what? Sometimes I get so upset at work that I have to leave early. You know what I mean? Like, or I'm grieving over, you know, my uncle who passed away a couple, you know. Oh shit, I wasn't supposed to say that.
Anyway,
you know.
you brought up something interesting to me because there was a scene early on where they were at a bar and she was talking about how her parents were Polish immigrants.
Oh, I
and
didn't even
she
realize
wanted to
that.
be like everyone else when she was growing up, but she wasn't. And I thought that did not make any sense to me because she did not have any sort of accent.
No.
She, like, her parents were from off the boat, I guess you'd say.
Right.
So there was never any indication that she spoke Polish or she had an accent. She never seemed awkward. She always was socially on point.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally.
She was beautiful.
Yeah,
flawless
blonde hair,
features.
blue-eyed, yeah, like
Very healthy body. There was nothing
Right.
about her that was awkward or I'm not trying to say immigrants are awkward. I'm just saying her story was
Right.
just a convenient story because there was nothing about her that
See, I don't
seemed
even remember that.
immigrant-ish.
Right.
Or like she was raised by immigrants that were awkward. Because she said, you know, I just wanted to be just like everyone else. And I thought, well, you kind of are just like everyone else.
yeah.
And he said, well, I like you because you're not like everyone else, which is a really nice thing to say.
Right.
And it's probably true because usually if you love someone, you do see something in them that you don't see in other people. But there was nothing unique about her.
No, there wasn't. Other than
So
she
I
was really into art. But, you know,
Yeah.
I
I mean,
really
no,
like
I
art.
meant
You know, like,
that,
I mean,
yeah.
but I'm obviously not as into art as she would be, you know, but no, and I agree with you. It's like she's not really unique or there's nothing that makes her stand out from the crowd.
And that's
You
okay.
know?
Like,
Right.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I just think that addition, that little monologue she did was unnecessary because I couldn't care less
Right.
if she wanted to fit in because she fits in now. So I don't have any empathy for her.
Right. Yeah, no, and I agree. And,
Yeah.
well, it's like, you know, and I'm thinking about, you know, like Pen 15, how Maya had those, like, friends over, and then they were, like, looking through the fridge, and they're like, oh, wow, why are all those fish heads in there? It's like, you know, for Maya, who's an Asian American girl, wanting to fit in with other people, you know, I can understand that from her perspective, but from Sophia's perspective, who is like what you said, she's this, like, pretty blonde-haired, you know, blue-eyed girl. She's kind of just, like, she's got a, you know, a nice, like, athletic body. Like, it's just, there's nothing about her.
She's a sorority girl.
Right, there's nothing about her
Yeah.
that stands out from the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, like, yeah, she's a sorority girl. And she says, like, oh, well, the rent was really cheap. Well, okay, but, you know, I mean, it's just like, but are
Yeah.
you just
Also-
like a trophy sorority girl? Like, you know?
There was something about the sorority house when he picked her up for that first date. I wanted to be like, sorority houses where every woman loses their mind over an attractive man.
Dude,
Because they were all just flipping out about him, and they were like, they were giggling, and all the sorority
And they
girls were
ran to the
Yeah,
windows to watch them
to watch
leave.
them leave. And they go, "I want a cowboy," and I thought, ladies.
I was like,
You've
turn
never
down
seen
the
a man
thirst
before?
factor.
I mean, it kind of made it look like sorority girls are in a bubble where there's no men, so when they see men, they go crazy.
Right.
They're bonkers.
Maybe
for
they
men.
are. I don't know. I mean, were you ever in a sorority? Because I wasn't.
Well,
so.
I stereotype sororities as mostly attractive women who probably have no trouble meeting attractive men.
I kind of do too. That's what it. Well, and that's what they're like in movies.
Yeah, that's what I have it to base off. That's what I base it on. But I've never seen sorority girls
like
just act like they've acted like there was only one man on the planet and he was it, and they couldn't believe their eyes that he was
the luckiest man alive.
I was baffled by their reaction to him.
I was too. I know, and they are like, and the especially like what you said. I want a cowboy. I was like, oh no.
Well, guess what? You're in North Carolina, so that shouldn't be too hard. Even though this movie makes it look like it is difficult, it probably wouldn't be.
So when Sophia and Luke met for the first time and he dropped his hat and he gave it to her.
Oh, yeah.
And did you notice that girl that was in the crowd and she gave her the dirtiest look ever?
Like, they made her look super done up. Like, she had too much makeup and she was trying too hard.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was like, how dare... he not noticed me over you.
Like,
she was, like, so jealous, and I was like, calm down.
Yeah.
You're gonna be fine. Like,
we all know that you're not gonna be with him because you're too done up.
Yeah. Like, when he's obviously gonna go for the natural girl.
He needs this pretty, socially graceful, awkward immigrant girl. Daughter of immigrants. Apparently.
Girl,
yeah.
Who doesn't ever fit in anywhere.
Yeah, she never fits in. Oh, and also, when they're at the hospital... And they've taken, they took Ira to the hospital after the car accident.
Yeah.
They just had this really nice first date. And Luke is talking to Sophia, and he said, well, I'll take you home. And she said, I think I'm going to wait for him to get out of the emergency room. And he goes, okay. And he just leaves.
No, he says, I'll wait with you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was kind of sweet.
But then she tells him not to, and he goes, okay.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be like, it's really not a problem. I can wait here with you. But instead, he was just like, okay, bye.
Peace out.
Like, good luck getting a ride back to you. Yeah, how did she in the middle of nowhere got, like, is Uber even a thing in this part of North Carolina?
Yeah, Uber, 10 years ago when the movie came out. I don't know. It was.
Oh, God, because it did come out a while ago, didn't it?
So dumb.
It was. It's just, I mean, so actually, I think I talked about everything in my notes.
Okay.
Which is good. I'm still looking. Let me just double check real quick. But actually, what I had said was when he had paid for the painting, I was like, this isn't an affair to remember kind of shit, because I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. That's a really sweet movie. You might like that one.
Oh.
But it's about this couple, or these two people that meet on a boat, and they decide that they're both rich. And he's like, I want to be able to support you, but, like, making my own money. So in a year, if we still feel the same way about each other, let's meet on top of the Empire State Building.
Oh,
it's a really sweet room.
Who's in it?
Cary Grant and Deborah Kerr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's from the 50s.
Yeah.
But she never meets him because she gets into a car accident and she ends up disabled. Yeah, she ends up paralyzed from the waist down. And she's also a painter, and he buys one of her paintings, and he I'm sorry. Wait, let me backtrack. He's a painter. And she buys one of his paintings. Wait, I think I'm missing part of the story.
So art comes into play.
Either way. And he visits her one day because he sees her at, like, a play or something, but he visits her at her home. And he realizes that she has the painting of, like, that he did of his grandmother, and he realizes that she still loves him, even though she never went to go see him at the Empire State Building. I know, and it's really romantic and cute, and I was like, this ain't no affair to remember kind of shit.
Oh, gosh.
No, it wasn't. And, but that's worth looking into if you like romantic movies.
Yeah, that sounds like a good movie. I like Cary Grant. I think he was in a movie called Father Goose, which was like a comedy.
I don't know.
It's a comedy. It's not like a comedy. It is a comedy. And I've liked that movie my whole life because my dad showed it to me when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just cute. It's set in the Pacific during World War II, and it's he lives on this island, and this woman and her boarding school, like all the girls' boarding school students, I think they get stranded on the island with him, and it's like a romantic comedy love story.
It sounds cute.
And it's just a really cute movie, and I've mentioned it to people throughout the years,
What's
and
it
I've
called?
never met anybody else who's seen it and liked it. It's called Father Goose,
Huh.
and that's when I first learned about Cary Grant, and
Right.
I've liked him my whole life because of that movie. So
you might like it.
yeah, I think I'm gonna check it out.
I
Oh
have
yeah,
it. Yeah.
I would like to watch it. I
So
think.
you want to watch
So,
it sometime?
Yeah.
But I was actually at Borders when I bought it, and the guy there told me the story, and I was like, okay. I bought the movie, and I was actually going to give it to my friend, but I gave her a different movie instead because I wanted it.
You wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
So
I
moral.
gave her Layer Cake.
Oh, I liked that movie.
I never
actually.
saw it, but
That
I know
has-
she liked Daniel Craig, so I gave
Yeah.
her Layer Cake.
Sometime I should tell you my review of Layer Cake, which is a pretty
Okay.
good review. But
Okay.
so the moral of the story is watch any other movie besides The Longest Ride.
Or
And-
specifically, just don't watch the parts of Luke.
Yeah,
There you
Yeah,
go.
don't be fooled by
it's-
young modern day lovers.
No.
Because the
They're
older
bad.
people, their love story is actually really good. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to point out real quick before we
Mhm.
wrap up. Is something positive about the cinematography. The filmmakers did a really good job of that. In a stronger movie, I would have thought, wow, really good work. So the bull riding thing, you have to stay on a bull for 8 seconds. And
Yeah.
they showed him bull riding multiple times. And they did a superb job making that 8 seconds last as long as the bull
Yeah.
rider probably feels like it's lasting. Like, it's like an eternity.
Actually, I did notice that part where they slowed it down. That was I thought that
Yeah.
was really cool. And they were like showing like the muscular like haunches of like the bull and
Yeah.
everything to like show you like how terrifying of a sport this is, that you're dealing with a very big and very strong animal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I
And
agree.
even
I
though it
actually thought
only
that was
lasts
really
8
cool.
seconds, that 8 seconds probably feels like forever when you're on the bull.
Oh, yeah,
or you're
for
watching your
sure.
loved one ride it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So-
So I thought that was good too.
There is a positive note on the cinematography of Luke scenes,
Yeah.
but the rest of the movie with
That's yeah. That
pointless.
actually that scene I thought was really well done. I
Yeah.
thought that was pretty cool.
they had a budget and they spent it all on that.
Just that one part.
Yeah.